Okay, so just to share what I saw, and then you're going to be able to fill in the blanks. When I entered the room, I tried to be unobtrusive and sit in the corner, but just the nature of the beast is several students shouted out, "Hey, why is Mr. Rounds here?" But I felt like, and I was trying to be, like I said, I was trying to be stealth in the corner, but I felt like after a few minutes, that was none of that. They obviously knew that when they come in, they sit down, you have procedures, and you have they just knew what to do. They sat down and started copying. Is that pretty much how class goes each day?
Definitely. I always have for all my classes, I have up the aim, which is the objective. Then I have up the homework, the due now, and the schedule, and they're supposed to copy all that stuff down first.
Yeah, it was definitely obvious that they knew the drill. Some of them probably had you before as teacher, right?
Definitely.
And I feel like a lot of teachers do that. So that's interesting that that's kind of like a institutionally and personally, that's something that our students should be used to by now. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the first thing that I noticed, which was great, was you had 3 different learning activities. You had this sort of mini lecture based on the notes, and then you had the parent share, then you had a model of what you were going to do with the symposium presentation of topics.
Mm-hmm.
My question was, how were the topics selected? How did the students select their own topics?
Their research topics? Yeah. It was specifically based on their preference, to tell you the truth. The thing with the ACE 101 class is because it's research writing, it's tended to be geared to the students are more into it when it's something that they're passionate about. So their research topics were strictly what they wanted. They picked their topics, and then as a class, we all helped one another to come up with questions for it.
So that was going to be my next question then. How have you found the practice of the students pairing and sharing, presenting each other's topics? Has it been, obviously they're contentious topics, has the process been respectful? To what extent are you involved in that? Like, are they coming to you after school with questions? And, this is my overall topic, but this is the direction I want to go. So talk a little bit about how much of a role you play and the process in the students themselves.
Okay, so the first day they came in, when they had to fill out their information card, I had them on the back of their information card to write down like the 2 to 3 most important topics that they would like to figure out more about and to know more about. So from that, I put up all the topics on the board within like that week. I put up all the topics on the board, and then once I had all the topics on the board, each student had to write 2 or 3 main questions for his or her topic, and we started with that. And then once we started with that, this was like over like a week or 2, and then once we started with that, the students had to write 2 questions down for each topic that was on the board.
Every topic.
Every topic that 17. Was on the board. So it was all 14 or 15 of the students. So they had to write down 2 questions, but if it was their own topic, they had to write down 3. Okay. A main topic, a main question, and then like 2 sub-questions. So then what we did is, like for a Socratic seminar, we actually sat in a circle, and each student whose main topic it was would start the conversation. So, my topic is adoption. This is the main question I came up with. And then we all went around and shared 1 question. And that student would sit there and be like, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. I didn't think about that. And add that to his or her list of questions. So that as a class, when you have your own question, but then you're hearing 13 other questions on your topic, it brought to light a lot of stuff in regards to that topic that child didn't even think about. So we did that, and that took a while because we did that for each student, but it generated amazing conversation. And then from that, the students, it was easy for that student to have the main research question and their sub-questions.
I would love to, next year when you do it again, I'd like to sit in and do that. So selfishly, again, we spoke about this, that I'm teaching the same course, so these are issues that I'm definitely going to, activities that I want to steal. So throughout that process, again, you're talking about possibility of some pretty contentious topics. Was the process respectful?
It was beyond respectful to the point where, I think one of the best things, and I've always said this, one of the best things about our district is our kids and how, with such diverse backgrounds they come from, but how amazing they are to one another. Like in this school, they're all friends. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter their background.
That crew especially, they tend to travel together.
Absolutely.
Key Club kids, Honor Society kids, Yearbook kids.
And some of the topics were where topics where I was not taken back by how respectful the kids were, but more taken back by how open they were willing to get into it. Like, one student, obviously, she did the adoption process, and she was blatantly able to, contribute to the group that she was adopted, and this is what it was like, and even how she asked her parents certain questions, and they were beyond respectful.
What do you think contributed to that feeling of this place being a safe place, this room being a safe place? Because you hear it out in the hallway. There's people screaming. You never would think that they could come in here, close the door, and then.
Definitely. Like I said, I definitely have had them. Most of them at least 2 years. So there is that relationship, and I was key co-advisor a while ago when they first started. But it's, I don't know. It's like this climate where I guess they know the expectations and they know that they have to be respectful to one another, but they're also kind of friends as well. Yeah. So they like helping one another out. And specifically with this class, I find, if I lecture more than 10 minutes, they're antsy. They want to be with their classmates helping them out. It's not that they're not doing anything. They're literally going over the proposal, saying, like, you could change this, you could add this. Sometimes it takes on even a different dynamic than what I expected. Like, when I expected them to pair up with their partner to do the other part of the lesson, I really expected, from the very beginning that they were going to be talking about this, or this is what happened at lunch, since they have lunch right before. And they paired up, and at first it was funny. There was, no dialogue, because they were actually sitting there reading one another's proposals. They wanted to know.
That close reading.
Exactly, yes.
And I didn't see this in the room. There wasn't any behavioral problems or anything like that, or anything that broke the sort of decorum. Mm-hmm. They transitioned well from, again, like you said, the 10 minutes or so in their ANSI to the parent chair, to the presentation. Have you had to deal with any kind of behavioral or discipline issues?
The only thing, and it's not really a discipline issue,
but I didn't see anything.
No, thank you. The only thing is, sometimes, when, if the kids come in, if they make it, before the bell, if they want to put their phone and charge the phone in the back of the room or the front of the room, yeah. I don't mind as long as it's not distracting. And personally, it's more beneficial because they don't fight over who's able to plug their phones in, because they know whoever gets here first, that's, the early bird gets the worm. They know that that's, their right. So that's not an issue, and I kind of prefer that when they do that, because then I know that student's not going to be on the phone. But it just becomes a problem if they're trying to plug it in and they're having a hard time plugging it in. So
do you let them, because technology has been an issue. We've talked about it as a department, as a PLC. High school, ELA kind of gets even with our textbooks, we talk about resources are sort of scarce and in pieces around the building. Do you let them use their phones to research?
Well, I have them in the computer room, so they often. So their research is mainly based in the computer room, only because for scholarly sources and stuff like that, it's really using a lot of their data. So for this research class, I don't. But if it's something like what I did for my Greek mythology class, where they had to, Google a symbol and see how it's used in modern day society, sure. I let them pair up with partners and use their phones for that real quick, because it doesn't use that much data. But for the research class, mainly the research is in the computer.
And those kids, you could probably be pretty sure that if you were to check, they're not playing a game.
No, they were. Same thing. It's weird. I found that that's actually what I did my research paper on. Use of mobile devices in the classroom to see if it promotes higher order thinking, which I found that it did. And ironically, it's weird. I find that when you do allow the students to use the phone in the classroom, they are on track and they are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. As opposed to if you don't, that's sometimes where you find them on it.
And then we also have confusing, I didn't want to go off topic here, but you and I have talked about this, that administrative directives on technology are sort of confusing. They want the kids to use the resources, but at the same time, if they come in and God forbid if someone did a walkthrough and there's 13 kids on their cell phones.
It's definitely hard, because I know, being able to have. Can I interrupt? No, we're videotaping right now. Seriously, just come back 5 minutes.
I was going to ask if you could join us later. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Just 5 minutes.
Well, it's good. Actually, yeah. We're I had just one more question for you.
Sure.
Such good, I went off a little bit, but that's okay. So again, this is a class. The ACE class is a research-based class, accredited with some rules through Westchester Community College. The expectations for the class are kind of coming from different angles. There's the Westchester expectations, there's your expectations, there's the administrative expectations. How do the students respond to that? Do they get the repercussions of attendance? Do they understand sort of what's at stake?
I think they do. I actually just reread the letter to them today and everything from WCC. I actually read everything and explained everything. I think they do. I don't have tons of issues, but I have, out of 15 kids, I have one student with an attendance issue, which I don't think is bad out of 15, and then one student with a lateness issue. But the student with the lateness issue does make up seat time that day.
Wow.
That day, which is usually right after the class, she has free, so she makes it up right then and there. But even then, I tell her that I'm not okay with it. I'm still documenting it, only because I can't stress enough to the students that the first 5 minutes of my class is the most important.
Yeah.
Because that's when I'm going over everything. So if they're going to miss time, I'd rather be the last 5 minutes than the first 5 minutes.
The workshopping and the actual working, right?
Exactly. They have to know what's expected of them by the end of that class. And if they don't, then that's an issue. So I think it's okay, but I think for the new adjustment, I think they're doing very well. It just, you have to definitely break it down a little bit more. So when I went over the proposal and like the rubric, I retyped the proposal with the rubric myself, adding on my own notes just for clarification with like one specific area where they had a little bit of trouble. And I think, like I said, working like holistically, like as an entire class, I think they're doing much better than they would be if it was just completely independent. Like they're running it independently, but the class, everyone's helping one another with the research questions, with the sub questions, with ideas, and I feel like they're enjoying it.
The expectations for a research paper, a legitimate research paper, are not only different than what we prep them as juniors and sophomores to be ready for the Regents exam. That task 2 is not really a research paper. It's a sink or swim, agree, disagree. There's no complexity. To get a good grade on that is it's a minimal skills. Now we get them a year later, like, remember everything we taught you? It's wrong. You know, you can agree with a little bit of what your opponent says and disagree, and it's a more complex process.
It is, and it's almost like sometimes you have to untrain what you train them for. So it is, because they're used to specifically saying like yes and just supporting it with their with their evidence nonstop, and then like
Chunks of evidence.
Yeah, and then like doing a little bit of like opposition, but it's totally different with the writing for this class, because they want you to do like the opposition views first for you then to bring in your position. So it's different, and that they're struggling with a little bit, but once again, like they're practicing in pairs, and I'm helping them as well. So once that goes around and like as it completes as a class, with like the 6 or 7 groups, then by the time it ends, by the end of it, they have it.
I've noticed too that my students are with the rhetoric, those logos. They either want to fire full cylinder on emotion and lay it on, or they want to be logos and just have 15 different quotes, and then or they need to learn how to mix everything for an argument. But it was great observing. Like I said, I stole some ideas and used them today. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.